George, firstly, thank you for letting us into your humble abode, your home. Looks like you're nicely settled in. How have you found living here in England?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been obviously different from United States. Just a different culture, different country, different feel, different vibe. But it's been good. Yeah.
It's always difficult when you're into a different setting. You don't know everyone, but as we know at Albion, everyone who comes is made to feel instantly at home. And have you felt that as well?
Yeah, for sure. Just going into work every day at the training ground. That I think is the most important part, and I feel really at home with the teammates, with the staff. With the coaching staff, everyone at the building is very welcoming. I think that's important, and it kind of translates to how I come back to my home with my wife, and it makes me feel good about my decision coming here. And yeah, it feels good.
And we're with you today, obviously, to talk about a variety of topics, chief among them being Black History Month. So if we could just start with you talking a little bit about your family history and heritage, where they originate from, and just a little bit about your upbringing, I guess.
Yeah. So well, me, I was raised in Pennsylvania in the Northeast, but my whole family, from my grandparents to their parents, they were also grew up in the Northeast in Virginia, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, in that area of U.S. And they've been here for generations. And yeah, and even today, my grandparents still have a house in New York. So I think just when I look back at growing up and I look back at my family and my grandparents and so on, I always have memories of just growing up in the Northeast part of America. And yeah.
Just give us a little detail about your experiences living in America, obviously, various different communities within it. So what sort of stories have you got to tell from your experiences in America?
Yeah, it's obviously compared to here, it's so much bigger of a country. So you have so many different types of cities, whether it's the North or the South, the Midwest, the West Coast. But yeah, so I think just being from the Northeast and then moving down south, I got a bit to see a bit of both worlds. I think the Southeast has a lot more diverse cities. For example, in Atlanta, where I moved, a lot of diversity there. You get lots of Black people, lots of white people, lots of Hispanics, and it's just it's a very welcoming presence, I would say, going into the South. And yeah, in Pennsylvania, where I grew up, was not as diverse, but I think depending on where you go, you can get the whole bunch in a melting pot, almost every part of the country.
Sounds like you've been in touch with a wide variety of different people throughout your life already, George. So with Black History Month being the topic, does that made you appreciate, marking it and I guess talking about it a little bit more when it does roll around?
Yeah, I think it's important, and just growing up, not necessarily in the U.S. in Black History Month, but in general, how I grew up, my parents would always want to kind of give me these small history lessons throughout the year, throughout life. And as a young kid, I didn't love doing it, but they would always want to take me to Black history museums. Try to give me books to read about history. And history is important. I think that honestly is one of my biggest messages to even close friends that sometimes I'll have debates with or something about a certain topic is history is important. That's why the way things are the way they are now. So yeah, I think not necessarily just Black History Month, but in general, that's how I was raised to kind of be aware of why things are the way they are and learn about where my people come from.
It's all about education, isn't it? And
Right.
even though we all want to live in an equal world, it isn't always the case, as you've experienced throughout your life as well. So growing up in America, is that something you've unfortunately witnessed yourself in terms of racism and discrimination against yourself?
Yeah, and not just me. I've seen other friends go through it sometimes more than I have. But even as a kid, sometimes you're not all there in the head, whereas you really understand what's happening and some of the insults that you get. So even as a kid, sometimes I would kind of brush it off to the side, but sometimes you get other, friends or kids in school who throw, some stereotypes that kids will laugh at, think it's funny, and maybe I would think it's funny at the time, but over time it's something that will get annoying and offensive. And looking back at it, obviously I see that now, but in the moment, I tried to brush it off as best as I could. But I think moving to Atlanta, where there's more black people, where I was closer to the city center in Atlanta, I think that kind of, developing at a teenage age there kind of helped me understand what was happening more looking back at it.
And you yourself are an example of a black person who's gone on to do brilliant and great things and achieve so many milestones already so far in your early career. Are there any other black people who you know who've gone on to achieve great things?
Yeah, so immediately the first people who come to my head are my parents and my grandparents. My mom went to an HBCU, which is a historically black college or university in the United States, and then my dad worked at one. And my grandparents also, my grandma was the president of one, and my grandpa as well was a president of a university. So my parents and my grandparents are generally just a huge inspiration for me in terms of educating myself. How when I was younger, I would look up to them in terms of kind of feeling a tiny bit of pressure, feeling like I need to do well in school, not to be too much of a disappointment. But no, I think all four of them are, the first people that come to mind.
Amazing. And the theme of this Black History Month is standing firm in power and pride. And I guess based off what you've just said as well, in terms of inspirations to you, those people who you've mentioned there are your inspiration.
Right. Yeah. I would say for sure them. Of course, looking in general, the people I don't know, like famous athletes or actors or influencers, whatever they are. There's so many people that I can look up to. And even moving to Atlanta, I would say I felt more. I want to say welcomed, but I felt more that there was a certain level of notice put on black businesses, art, history. You see how Martin Luther King is celebrated in the city and how he was born and raised there. So I just feel like the influence of black people in general, as I moved to Atlanta, and also in terms of the history that city has been through, I kind of felt. So not necessarily just people, but in general, a community, I think has been important for me to look up to and learn from.
Taking into all those different stories that you've just mentioned into account, what are your hopes for the future with regards to equality and diversity in this world, George?
Yeah, one of the big things for me is just to not have, even for other communities, but for black people, just not have us generalized as much. And I feel like a lot of times we see or we feel that one bad thing can happen in a certain place and it feels as if the whole community is attacked at times. And in general, I think, obviously compared to, hundreds of years ago, 50 years ago, and now, I think there's been an improvement. But I think just the country can go so much further. The world can go so much further and just step up a bit. And I think in general, that's a big problem, is just groups generalizing other groups. And, if there's one bad apple, it turns into a problem with everyone. And I think that's one thing that's a bit toxic and can get a little bit better, just in general in the world, and especially in US, how I feel.
The world, in your eyes at the moment, is a happy place, of course, because you're at West Bromwich Albion starting in the Sky Bet Championship week in, week out at the moment. So has everything lived up to your expectations since you joined the club, would you say, George?
Yeah, I would say, when I first came, obviously halfway through preseason, I was itching to get to the first game against Blackburn. And yeah, I was just ready to see the atmosphere of, I have a ton of friends and people in the US that I've played with or had staff be with me and told me about the league. And I've been told so many great things about it, how intense it is, the fans, how angry or happy they can get in times of losing or winning. So I was really looking forward to that coming here, and it definitely exceeded my expectations, especially on game days.
What have you said or have noticed have been the main differences between the UK, the US, the footballing game in the US, the footballing game in the UK?
Yeah, a lot of people come to me and ask how MLS was, and a similar question. And there's a lot of great players in the MLS, but I would say here, with the obviously around the world, there's relegation and there's promotion, so there's higher stakes, and I think that's what really fuels this league and football in this country in general is the high stakes and the pressure and just the demand to win from your fans, from your club, and from each other. I would say that's the main thing that drives the intensity every day in training and in games. So I would say the main part is just going into duels hard, really competing, and just being focused every day on how we're going to win.
And you, of course, get your downtime away from the pitch, as we all do. We've already spoken a little bit about the things you've discovered since you have been in the UK, maybe compared with the US, which you haven't had the joy of experiencing before. Fish and chips are one of them. I know you've experienced for yourself. What are your opinions on them? Does it live up to the hype, or?
I mean, the fish and chips, it was about what I expected. I wouldn't say it was something that I can't wait to eat again, but it was good. But in general, just the culture and just the little things, like how tight the roads are compared to before, the infrastructure compared to the US. Everything is just a bit different. Driving on the opposite side of the road is different, obviously. So it's a handful of things. So it's not just the fish and chips.
No, it's also the games as well. We know you've been to Lane 7 on an occasion before, is that right?
Yeah, Lane 7's a good one. To be honest, right when I first came here, I think me and my wife were at the bull ring probably 5 times out of 7 in the week. So that's been a pleasant experience going out there. But yeah, we have a ton more of experiences to look forward to. But obviously, first comes first is the games on the weekend. So yeah.
And what have been your opinions on your own personal display, George? Obviously, we've had some good results, we've had some bad results. How would you assess it overall?
Yeah, I would say, on an individual standpoint, for me, it's just about learning and growing into the team, trying to get as much minutes as possible, try to work as hard as possible, help the team. And I thought we, in general, started well to the season. But it's impossible in this league to win every game. And I think everyone knows that. And so I think it's just about sticking together and just trying to stay healthy and working as hard as possible. It's a long season, so just being together with the guys and trying to stick together as a family on the pitch is good.
And obviously you're a defender at heart, but playing on the right side of the fence also requires going forwards as well. How have you found those different responsibilities?
Yeah, it's a different physical game, I would say, in terms of running, and obviously tactically a different game. So yeah, I would just say I've grown up since I was a kid trying to play every position, and I try to be able to play every position, whatever the team needs. And even in MLS games before, I've played in midfield. I've played on the right and the left, and center back and full back. So yeah, I just try to be versatile and be able to help the team in any way possible. I always tell my friends if any coach ever needed me to play at the 10, I'd play at the 10. So I try to back myself wherever I play. Yeah.
We know you've noticed the boing boing celebration, as you said before, as well. So are you going to pull one of those out when the first goal does come, or?
Yeah, if that'll be one, I'll have to wait if my family is there because they love it as well. So
yeah,
yeah.
We're not seeing that sort of thing before, or?
No, I mean in general the fans are incredible. So I haven't seen anything like it. In general, even away games and of course other stadiums as well. They're home fans as well. It's just fans in general in England are second to none for sure. Yeah, I felt that energy walking out and the starting 11 or even at halftime at the end of the game. The fans really give you energy here, and that's what I love, honestly.
George, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.